This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode, I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello and welcome to episode 372 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. It's about Ayutthaya in Thailand and visiting thoughtfully. Before I start, let me pay my respects to the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation where I'm recording today. Now, if you have listened to episode 368 about my time in Bangkok recently, you'll know I was there to catch up with Vincie, the founder of Rise Travel Institute, where I volunteer and I'm a member of the board. We had a whole Sunday free to hang out together, and she suggested that we go to Ayutthaya, or more technically the Ayutthaya Historical Park, which is a UNESCO World Heritage site where there's the remains of the old city of Ayutthaya, which was the capital of the Kingdom of Siam hundreds of years ago. And of course, since we both like to travel with a very thoughtful travel kind of lens, and we noticed a lot of interest on this day, I wanted to record a chat with Vincie about what we noticed. So just to start us off, we had planned to take the train from Bangkok to Ayutthaya, but we hadn't accounted for, even early on a Sunday morning, the traffic being so chaotic in Bangkok. So our Grab taxi, which we had used to get to the station, was not going to get to the station in time, and the trains are not very frequent. But fortunately, Vincie speaks good Thai and enabled us to negotiate with our Grab driver, who, just by our good fortune, was such a lovely guy, to not only drive us the hour to Ayutthaya, but to also spend the day there with us, helping us move around to the different temples as they're quite spread out. And it worked out so well to have him there to move us around and take us back to Bangkok. And plus, weirdly, we made a new friend. It was so nice. So Vincie and I discussed this, but I'm picking up on our conversation when we are about to arrive. On our way there is when the rain really started. I remember we've got a video of intensely heavy rain, at which point I was kind of glad we were in a taxi and not having to really get around everywhere ourselves.
Exactly. We were so fortunate. And you know, I believe the icing on the cake is that it was an EV. Yeah. It was an electric vehicle. So
we can't feel too bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I felt.
100%. And because initially we just negotiated for him to just take us there and then we would just find our way around. But was it before we arrived we agreed then, can you just take us around for the day?
That's right. So the thing is, sometimes they may have to return back into the city, like, empty car, right? Like having no passengers. So he asked us if we wanted to actually rent the car for a day. So I was like, well, yeah, thinking about how to get back to Bangkok, it would be another nightmare. We're going to have to figure out all the logistics. And so since he was just such a lovely person, we just said yes. It was the best thing that actually happened.
Absolutely ideal. And because I also hadn't realized that at Ayutthaya there's so many, different locations and different parts of it. So having him just waiting around for us, lovely guy, was so much easier than having, there's a lot of parts that aren't walking distance. We would have needed to find another way.
Yeah, we would have needed to find either another taxi or get on these tuk-tuks for tourists. And I imagine that might have ended up being even more expensive.
Definitely. And a lot more hassle.
And a lot more hassle as well. And also, as we got there, it was shortly before lunchtime, I believe, and we didn't have breakfast. So I asked him if he could take us to a local eatery for boat noodles, because Ayutthaya is really, really famous for its boat noodles and other things as well. He just stopped at in the middle of nowhere, on the way there, he just stopped at the restaurant, a local restaurant, and we were the only people, right? We were the only customers. And so we invited him to join us, because he should eat too, yes. if he was going to spend a day with us.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I was like, why don't you join us for lunch? And he just, like happily accepted.
Yeah. And then we were well fueled, ready for our walking and wandering at Ayutthaya. So then we're there, and it is, as you described, it's otherworldly. It's like stepping back in time. It reminded me a little bit of being at Angkor Wat in Cambodia. A little, like they had that kind of, back in time, semi-ruin, kind of that feel to it.
And to me, it really reminds me of the of Old Bagan in Myanmar as well.
Right.
With thousands of pagodas. Yeah.
I haven't been there, but I've seen amazing pictures. So.
Magic.
So we arrived and we started off wandering, various parts of the temples. And what I really noticed was, and this happens to me, well, this seems to happen in Thailand quite a lot, that there were a lot of signs and a lot of gentle educational information to help tourists be respectful and thoughtful.
I love that. That's just, I also believe that because there have been a fair amount of disrespectful tourism, like tourist behaviors in the past, that there's somehow just got to be that need.
Which is unfortunate, but at least it's there.
Yeah, but I really appreciate, the gentle education as you described, kind of everywhere we went.
So we started off at
Wat Mahathat.
Your pronunciation is so lovely. Yeah. And this was one of the places where they had especially, really important signs. So there's a Buddha head relic that's in the roots of a tree. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, will take photos of it. Mm-hmm. But around that spot, they have signs saying, please pay respect and do not stand, basically the signs are saying do not block the Buddha's head while you're taking photos. So they have like a sign with an example of people standing around so that you can see, you can still see the Buddha's head.
That sign was very, very effective because it's also visual, right?
Yeah.
And it's also, most tourists don't mean to be disrespectful. They just don't know. Like, I wouldn't have known that you shouldn't stand in front or
no, same.
Right? So
yeah.
Like having that reminder is actually really helpful for those who have the best of intentions and who want to be respectful and know how to do that now.
Absolutely. Like some things are really obvious that you shouldn't do, but that one I would not have realized if that sign wasn't there. As soon as you see the sign, you think, oh, absolutely logical, I understand.
Yeah.
And I won't do it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I could easily have disregarded that. And I don't want to be offensive, but, we are people definitely with the best of intentions. So, and I think a lot of tourist, quote unquote, misbehavior, a lot of it is really just because we don't know. Mm-hmm. And so that gentle education is perfect.
100%, yes.
And there was a few other signs around that. There was a general sign I saw saying, this is a sacred place. Please respect the place and its materials, as in kind of don't touch stuff. But it's a nice way to say it.
And what I love about what they, the way they do it is, they have signs that tell you what to do or what not to do. And then they also have signs, like dedicated spots for Instagram photos. And, they just would tell you, why don't you just take your photos here instead of climbing up some of the spots where you're not supposed to go to.
Exactly. Yeah. Here's a beautiful spot. Do this here and then everybody will be happy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. They had both those positive signs, like this is a sacred place. And also the signs of don't do this, like no climbing, no sitting.
No graffiti.
Yeah. No graffiti. They called it no scratching. But the picture made it clear that it was I guess it is sort of scratching, scratching into the rock or brick is like graffitiing. And also where people would be inclined perhaps to stack rocks like in cairns and stuff, and they've got signs saying don't do this. But I love the way they put it. They said do not move any single brick from its original place for making any of your ideas. It will be charged as an illegal act. So that is particularly not okay. But yeah, I mean, for making any of your ideas, I love. Because that's true. A lot of people just have this idea or they're being creative or they think it's like a cool thing. I know even on hiking trails, people do this and it's not okay. But
yeah, because people don't realize that, they would think that it's harmless.
But if everyone's moving everything everywhere, that becomes unharmless in the end.
Exactly.
So And that was not just at that part of Ayutthaya, but all over they had various kinds of
all over. I mean, there are
helpful.
signs. There are signs at the airports as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes.
I find that super helpful because you are basically it's really about setting expectations before tourists enter the country. Like these are some norms and customs that you may want to respect. And now you know. Don't say that you didn't know, right? And so you have those signs like at the airport, and I find that super effective and also very, very thoughtfully done too.
I know. I remember the very first time I landed in Bangkok, the very first time I visited Thailand, I saw these, signs about, being respectful to Buddha statues and all of that at the airport. I was like, okay, this is amazing. And I don't think I've seen that really in any other country with such regularity.
That's right.
It makes so much sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I wish all countries would do the same, like all destinations, all tourist destinations, quote unquote, can actually play this role, to educate travelers and visitors.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to all take some of a leaf out of Thailand's book here. They do.
Well, that's actually the work of Rice Travel Institute, right? Like, I mean, if we, imagine like tourism destinations like collaborated or partnered with us, and we can, design a whole like educational program for visitors and for foreigners. And, it's not just to protect or to help travelers understand what it means by respecting the local cultures, but also it's protecting them and, keeping them safe as well from dangerous situations that they may get themselves into, right?
Yeah. It's a win-win all around.
It is win-win.
All right. Now, another important, I thought, nice aspect of our visit to Ayutthaya was there was evidence of like some quite significant sustainability things happening, like the walkways and the pavements and stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So they get this Go Green Together project, but I was blown away like when I realized that the pavement or the pedestrian walkway that we were walking on was actually made from plastic waste, from like 9,000 kilograms of plastic waste collected from around Thailand. That's really, really cool.
It's amazing because, like, of course, old historical places sometimes need parts replaced so that it's safe to walk and stuff. Of course, it still looked realistically like old, red pavers, but yeah, made from plastic waste. Like, what a perfect kind of, end cycle to that, to reducing that waste and reusing that waste in a way that works for everybody.
So clever. And what I really love about that project is also like its effort in educating people, right? Like, as soon as you walk on the walkway, or the entrance to that walkway, there is a big sign basically telling you the story of the project. I think that's so important, right? Because otherwise people might have just like walk or spend 20, 30 minutes on the walkway without realizing what it was or the story behind.
I wouldn't have known otherwise. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So like communicating the story was just so important.
And another little thing I liked was the availability of umbrellas. I mean, yeah, I've often been in a situation, for example, I remember being in Kyoto and about to walk up the Fushimi Inari, the orange gates, the temple where you walk all the way up the hill. And it was a rainy day. We'd hopped off the bus and there's a little shop there selling cheap plastic umbrellas. And of course we bought one because we were going to be outdoors and we didn't bring an umbrella because, we just arrived from Australia. And I'm sure they did a very good trade in cheap plastic umbrellas. Mm-hmm. Of course, we also didn't take it home. We eventually just abandoned it somewhere because it's a long umbrella, it doesn't fit in our luggage, etc.
Yeah.
So the fact that at the entrance to every section of Ayutthaya, tell us what you find.
Umbrellas. They're very sturdy ones, right? And they're just there. You can use it while you're at the site and you're asked to return them back to where they are and just store them where they are. And I find that super handy, and that prevents people from like buying cheap ones that would go straight to landfill after a few days, right? Or sometimes maybe after a single use of like an hour or so. And you do know that in Asia, umbrellas are not just used when it rains.
True. Also, of course, yes, to
Especially
prevent in the
Ayutthaya,
sun.
the heat can be, really unbearable. Like when it's
Mm.
midsummer, scorching heat, the umbrella actually does come handy.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you're right. I had forgotten that because we don't have that custom here in Australia,
Exactly.
although we should because
Especially
we're
you guys in Australia.
100% with our high skin cancer rates. We should be doing
Uh,
that in summer and we don't. But yeah, as you said, they were sturdy umbrellas and I loved it's just an honor system. Like I've sometimes seen those kind of things in other countries, but with you put a coin in to rent the umbrella for the day or something. This is
Mhm.
just an honor system. There's
Exactly.
a massive rack of them here. Put it back when you're done.
Yeah.
Such a clever system.
They're also like very easily distinguishable too. Like you would not want to steal one from
No, I think it would be obvious, yes.
it would be very obvious.
I was curious as well because I had looked this up when I got home that they were sponsored by Poisian.
Uh-huh.
They
Is
were
it an inhaler brand?
yes,
Yeah, right.
which was interesting to me because they had also sponsored benches around and
Yeah,
about, dotted
that's
around the
right.
place, and it just said inhaler brand, and I was ignorant about what inhaler meant.
I actually was too, like not until my friend Pijo introduced us to the inhaler. I mean, I had no idea what that was and what it is for.
And can you explain?
Okay, so bear with me. I believe that it's made of some sort of herbs that you can, I mean, it's a thing that you can smell that's supposed to like clear up your sinuses, something like that, I
I
believe.
guess, yeah.
Right? So they call it the inhaler, and it's very trendy right now in Thailand. And even I believe it's Lisa of Blackpink. um yeah, so I believe she made a commercial for one of these inhaler companies, and that's why like it
Right.
just went viral.
I was so glad though to discover that that's what it was because when we were there and I saw this inhaler brand was sponsoring all this stuff, I was like, are they vapes or something? Like, is it
Right?
something that's not like, not something that I would fit into an ethical product kind of thing? But no, it is. It's perfectly fine. So how lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me feel much better.
But it seems like it's supposed to be a health product for people of all ages. So
Yeah, in that case, I'm more than happy to have kind of commercial sponsorship, intruding, quote unquote, into historical sites because they were doing very handy things, nice benches for people who need to have a rest and umbrellas for heat or rain. Very thoughtful.
it was very thoughtful.
So, speaking about like visitor education and stuff, we were very excited when we came across one part of Ayutthaya where we could download this app. It was called Retouch Ayutthaya, and it was an augmented reality app.
That was such a brilliant idea. Yeah, that was such a brilliant invention. It's just when I said earlier that we felt like traveling back in time, that app actually helped you visualize how the ruins used to look like in the past.
Absolutely. It was amazing. So once you downloaded it, you could hold up your phone
Yeah.
with the app open and it would, it would be like the camera. You could see what's in front of you. But then it would add the image of what was there long ago, like kind of add on top of it and around it. This is the original buildings here.
Yeah, and you see all these like beautiful like white pagodas, right? It's just so amazing. Yeah, it's
It
just
was, it was mind blowing.
I didn't know, like I believe that the last time or the previous times that I went to Ayutthaya that didn't exist yet, right? And so
Mm-mm.
it's fairly new, and I was like, wow, this technology is so that this is a great example of technology put in good use,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Because it's very
absolutely.
educational.
Yeah.
It's just like really enhanced the experience by so much.
Yeah, you can imagine like some kids coming along and being able to use that and, they might think, oh, there's all these old ruined buildings, but then they get to use the app and see, oh, wow, this is what it was like, long, long ago. That just really adds to that. You can really imagine it. So, I mean, you can imagine it vividly because the app shows you. It's just visualizing history in the most amazing way. And what I loved about it on the app, it had like an opacity kind of slider.
Yeah.
So like you could make it like 100 and you could only see like in front of you how it was originally, but you could also kind of take that back halfway.
So that you see the image like overlaid on top.
Yeah, so you could see both.
Reality.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
It
so
was
amazing.
so clever. Yeah.
It
Just
is.
such great technology.
It is very,
Yeah.
very clever.
It was really, really cool. It was a paid, like there was a free version. I can't remember what the free version would let you do, but we did the paid version. It was like $3 for 24 hours of use or something.
Exactly.
It wasn't expensive, but so if you were going there, pay for it. It's worth it. Just so cool. Yeah. Never seen anything like that. And we were just amazed, weren't we? So that was my big, like, loved it. And then they also, this is the sad part of visitor education. I thought this was like just such an indictment on people just going to places and not really caring about stuff. There was a sign at the entrance to
What program?
And they had QR codes going to YouTube video explainers, basically, about the site. And I went through, like, I'm a nerd, and so I went through and checked each of those QR codes, and they were to different language versions. There was Thai, English, Mandarin, and Japanese. So that's great. But they had been up since 2018 or 2015, depending on the language. All of them had under 1,000 views.
Yeah.
Of all the thousands of tourists that must have gone through, have walked past that sign, to think that so few ever clicked through to YouTube.
Yeah, it is sad, but I would love to imagine that most people may have read a little bit about the sites before they went. Hopefully they might have hired a tour, like, a local guide who would tell them stories,
That's true. I like that spin on it. Well done. Very good. Now, unfortunately, the last section that I want to talk about is not a good news section. So we drive in, we're driving along and driving in, and of course, well, not of course, I've been to Thailand many times, but only in relatively recent years. And so I have actually never seen this in real life.
Yeah.
But along the main roads, we see tourists riding atop elephants.
Do you want to hear my story?
Yes, please.
I think it was probably 15 years ago that I actually rode an elephant at the exact same site in Ayutthaya with my friends who traveled, like, who were traveling with me in Thailand. So I would say that back in the days, I was not particularly sensitive to what I know now, like how the elephants are treated and how the mahouts need to break their spirit in order for them to do their job, quote unquote job, and how they're chained and so I had just basically like no awareness, right? And oftentimes for tourists or travelers to want interactions with animals, that's because they love animals, right? And so they want to get close to them, they want to be able to pet them, and so on. And so it's only in the past 12, 15 years or so that we start to talk more and more about like the ethics of interacting with animals when you travel and how we should like leave them alone, and now like having much more information about why it is harmful for us to participate in activities that involve animals. But back in the days, I just really had no idea. I did not know that I was causing harm. I thought that I was contributing to the local economy. I thought that I was, there was a lot of assumptions and ignorance, of course, right? What is interesting is that now a lot of us in our community, in our traveler or tourism professional community, have this awareness, but it's not necessarily the same case for the locals,
No.
And so to us, it was shocking to still see tourists like riding elephants. We're now in 2025 and we made a lot of progress in terms of animal protection in the tourism space in the past, 1 or 2 decades. However, it is, you probably were surprised that a lot of my local friends, Thai friends, they would enthusiastically ask, hey, did you ride an elephant? Why didn't you do that? It was fun. That was, that's the highlight of what people usually would do in Ayutthaya.
So obviously I live in a bit of a bubble, of thoughtful travelers now. And of course I remember, when I first learnt that this was not a good thing to do, it was 10 plus years ago.
Right.
And I was on my way to Bali and a friend posted I'd posted somewhere and she said, don't ride the elephants. And that was the first time I'd really heard about it. And of course, my mum for many years had a picture of her riding elephants in northern Thailand on her wall, which she later took down of her own accord because she realized she didn't want that reminder anymore. I kind of, I know that, like Intrepid has cancelled, has no tours that would involve elephant riding, for many years. And so for me, I think, it's really known as a thing. And I kind of was really surprised that the people of Thailand don't necessarily feel this way. And we would meet, we met your friends and that was, we told them we'd been to Ayutthaya and that's the first thing that I said, oh, did you ride the elephants? And of course, I'm meeting your lovely, lovely friends for the first time. So I said nothing except, oh no, I didn't say, of course, I'm not going to say anything else. I'm definitely not going to start telling them what I think about that topic at that moment in time. But that was quite a shock to me. Yeah, that was the reaction. And I know it's there's a lot of perspectives to it.
Yeah.
As you might recall, I did my capstone project for the RISE flagship program all about elephants in Thailand and that whole industry. I was shocked.
Well, I still remember your capstone project talking about, elephants and the many shades of gray. And this is exactly, like my local friends, because that's what they grew up with. It's normal for them. It's not like oftentimes we have this, this ethical lens looking at things. And you're right, like people don't necessarily have the same perspective. I think no one would say that they're for torturing animals. No one would say that. And you, like you said just now, like all of my friends, they're just so kind human beings. It's just really the lack of awareness, I would say, but also like how things are normalized in some cultures. When that's something that you grow up with, you don't necessarily realize that that's bad. Like, in the US, if you grow up eating meat, like produced by industrialized farming, and you would still find it normal. Like you would just like walk into a supermarket and buy meat and eat it at your dinner without thinking that, well, if you want to talk about animal protection or animal inhumane treatment of animals, you're actually like contributing to that every day too. There are so many things that, sometimes we carry our worldviews, our judgment when we travel, but not really being able to look introspectively into our own culture and how we treat animals as well. And so like it's not really up to us to lecture other cultures or other people like about their relationship with the animals. Of course, like it would take a lot of education and also all the stakeholders in the tourism sector, how we can help family businesses and the mahouts to transition out of that practice, out of like harming elephants. But it takes everybody. It also takes people to it also takes programs or like initiatives from the government or from tourism sector to continue educating tourists and people who actually pay to do that. It's a journey. And I would say that, yes, I too participated in that. And now I know that it's harmful. So I stopped doing that. I still remember in the past 12 years or so, like we kind of transitioned from elephant riding to elephant bathing. And now like in sanctuaries or so-called sanctuaries. And now we realize that even elephant bathing is harmful to them. Right. And so guess what? We just stopped doing that. And so, I trust that people's awareness would continue to grow and that we will, continue to, collectively make progress. And on the journey, like we're just at a different, at different points of the journey. And I think it's not really helpful to shame anyone, especially especially the locals, given also the fact that a lot of, Western travelers, when they say, oh, I would never, I would boycott all companies, all local companies that use elephants or that offers elephant riding. But then we need to think about people's livelihood as well, right? Like families who have always done this, like how are they, if you tell them that, no, this is wrong, do you actually have a solution to kind of help them transition out of that so that you are not only protecting the elephants, but also making sure that you are helping those families sustain their livelihoods?
Very well said. And you're right. It's a journey and a process. And as I recall, like a lot of the elephant use in tourism is because they transitioned out of using them in logging, which
Exactly.
was, much more awful for them, I imagine.
Right.
I imagine that if we discussed that with your Thai friends, they would have thought that using them in logging industry would be an awful thing to do.
Yeah.
Or just a different part of the journey. That's very, very true. And it is very tricky with a lot of stakeholders and perspectives, for sure.
It is. But yeah, so they, my friends just like so enthusiastically asked us like, did you ride an elephant?
The first thing they said to me.
That was so funny. Like, it was very funny to watch your face, your reaction.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because you were trying, you obviously had a gut reaction to that, but you were also trying to be very polite with my friends. It was just so cute to watch.
I'm glad you enjoyed my moment of tricky torment. Oh, but your friends were so lovely. And of course, that was a great way to top off our day, coming back to Bangkok and having a really lovely local dinner with your Thai friends. So I think you'll have heard that we thoroughly enjoyed our day out. And it was really also great to reflect on it later in this thoughtful way. So thank you very much, Vincie, for that. And I do hope we get to travel somewhere together again soon. Thank you all for listening to episode 372 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm going to leave a bunch of links in the show notes. Firstly, to episode 368, which was my Bangkok travel diary and thoughtful travel scorecard, so you can hear more about that trip. Also, of course, to the Rise Travel Institute at risetravelinstitute.org. Thanks to them, I know Vincie. I also want to link to that cool app we talked about called Retouch Ayutthaya, and the website is just retouchayutthaya.com, or you can search for that in either any app store, etc., and you'll find it. During our chat, we also referenced my capstone project. That was for the Certificate in Sustainability and Anti-Oppression in Travel, which I did through Rise Travel Institute. And the result of that project is an podcast episode, which was episode 252, Elephants Are Many Shades of Grey. So I'm going to link to that as well. Of course, you can also come and chat with us in the Facebook and LinkedIn groups for Thoughtful Travellers, or hear more at the Substack, thoughtfultravel.substack.com. All of these links, and I will also include some photos from Ayutthaya and our experience there, will be in the show notes for this episode at notaballerina.com/372. As always, thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.